In order to capture into Edius, you're first going to need to set up the deck that you're going to record from. This is a system setting, so once you've done it once, it's set for all of your projects. But unless you set up the deck, you're just not going to have the controls to do it. And when you do record, it's the source player here that displays the contents. So let's just set up a deck and see if we can do some recording. First of all, I'm going to go to the Settings menu and I'm going to choose System Settings. And in my System Settings, I'm looking under Hardware and I've got Device Preset, and there's nothing in here at the moment. I'm going to click New and I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this DV Deck. I can choose an icon, and there's loads of different icons to choose from to make it easier to choose between multiple decks later on. Now, of course, I've just got one deck connected, but you could easily have several, and this just makes it easier to toggle between them. I'm going to click Next, and now I've got my settings. Now, I've just got a regular deck connected via OHCI, so I'm going to choose that. I'm going to choose the video format because, of course, OHCI allows for quite a lot of different kinds of deck. I've just got a regular PAL 50i deck. So this is 50 fields per second interlaced. It's regular 25 frames per second video. And the codec's fine, DV. I'm not using DVC Pro. I don't need a proxy file to be created. This is a low resolution copy of the media to be created to toggle between in the proxy mode. I'm pretty happy with all the standard settings here. I'll click Next. And then equally for output, if I have this deck connected, what format am I going to output? And you'll see there's lots and lots of formats supported by Edius. I'm going to go for the 720 by 576, again 50i 16 by 9. And that's fine, the audio format 2 channel, 16-bit, click Next. And I'm done. I get an overview of my settings and I can click Completed. And then there's a little shortcut you can do here that's not very clear from the interface, but if you right-click on an entry for a device preset, you can make duplicates and copy and make adjustments. And you can even export and import these. So if you're working with multiple Edius machines, you can transfer the settings. But if I go to Assign Input Preset, I can choose Input Preset 1, and nothing appears to happen. But if I apply and OK, now when I go to my Capture menu, I've got DV Deck listed as my Input Preset 1. Now you can actually add these input preset buttons to your player monitor in the user settings. So if you're coming in and out a lot using the same deck, you can have a button at the bottom of the player monitor here. A little bit difficult to see with this smaller interface, but in fact I've already got this set up, DV Deck. If I just reposition this, if I want to toggle to view the contents of my tape, now I've got a tape already in the deck, I can either go to the Capture menu here and choose DV Deck. And by the by, if I haven't set up the input preset, I can just go to Select Input Device and I'll get any devices I've got set up. And now for me, I think the interface here is not super intuitive because if you don't know that you need to go into the Settings menu and set up the deck, you could be forgiven for wondering, well, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I get my deck? You can't right-click in this menu. There's nothing you can really do if you don't have a deck connected already. So there you go. Now you know. You have to set it up first of all. I can go to the Capture menu, but I can equally just click now on my Input Preset button here. And this is going to switch the player to showing me the contents of the tape. And I get to choose a real number. This is my tape number. Now, for what it's worth, the tape number is not important if you never intend to be able to automatically re-record your media from tape. But if you think it's possible that you might need to recut your program, if at some point in the future you might need the computer to re-find all of the original media, then this real number is very, very important. Some cameras will put user bit data in, which is an extra bit of time code. So the time code is the hours, minutes, seconds, and frames of content of your media. It's just counting time. But you can also put user bits in. And these are sometimes used to identify the camera operator, for example, or occasionally they're used to define the tape number. I'm not using that, so I'm going to uncheck the box and I'm going to type in, this is presentation tape 001. It's a good idea to use the 3-digit numbers because it helps the system to keep everything in order. I click OK now. I'm now looking at the contents of my deck, and this is me trying to look moody and doing a presentation about staying organized with your editing system. Now, back in my asset bin, I've got the root directory selected, and that means that if I record, this is going to be the container for my new media. But again, the media itself is going to be in my project folder. It's just the shortcuts to the media that will appear in my asset bin. So I can press play, choose a bit that I like, and hit record. And immediately now, Edius is capturing. When I'm happy, I press stop. And then, if I resize a little bit, here we are in my asset bin. That's the clip. Now, when I double click on this, I'm getting the contents of the clip in my source player. I'm now seeing the capture name 1203000. I can rename that, of course. And there is the video. I was kind of going for a Steven Seagal look there. I think that kind of works. If I just go back into the capture mode there we are, and play. Now, under capture, I have the option to change the real name at any time. So if I decide I've got a different tape in, then Edius should pop up automatically when you put a new tape in, but you can always change your mind later on. As well as capturing, if I just resize this panel again a little bit so you can see. Here we are. As well as capturing, I can instead add to a batch capture list. So this is an offline list of clips that I, at some point in the future, might want to capture. So if I play, I can mark an in point, which is the beginning of the section I want. I can mark an out point, which is the end of the section I want. And this is telling me I've got a 3-second 4-frame duration. It's pretty short. And I can click to add to batch capture list. Having done that, if I click on the drop-down menu here and choose batch capture, there we go. I've got my batch capture list. And this can be a whole list of stuff from multiple tapes. You could have 100 clips on this list if you like, and select the items that you want to capture and click capture. And Edius will go off and automatically record the items that you've chosen. And this is just a way of pre-organizing your media before you even record it onto the computer. Frankly, these days, hard drives are pretty cheap. And if you are going to capture from something like DV or HDV or even regular XDCAM EX, the data rate's pretty low. You can probably afford to just capture the entire tape and bring the whole thing in. Of course, I'm saying XDCAM EX, that's a file-based system anyway, but you get the gist. If I now go over and right-click on this item that I've created, let me just resize the window so you can see. There we go. When I select this, I've got a fair bit of metadata about it. And if I right-click and choose Explorer, there's my file recorded onto my hard drive, and it's inside my project folder. So capturing's pretty straightforward. Effectively, Edius just behaves like a tape recorder.